sorry. That was a lot. That was a lot. My bad. I didn't really do a mic check beforehand. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, Creative DC. How we doing? I need more. I'll take that. Welcome to Creative Mornings. This is great. How many of y'all have never been to Creative Mornings before? Wow, this is like a pretty veteran crew, actually. Welcome to the newcomers. There's normally more of you, I swear. But today, apparently, something's in the water, and we're here for it. How many of you have never been in the DuPont downstairs before, as I call it? DuPont Underground is our beautiful, fun little slice of Eastern Europe here in DC. Every time I'm down here, I'm a little bit afraid that the train will forget that this is no longer part of the route, and but don't worry, there's no trains plowing through us today. For those who've not been here before, Creative Mornings is a monthly breakfast/morning lecture series that happens all over the world every month. That's what monthly means. If you've also not been here before, you'll know that it takes me about 3 minutes to remember how to talk to people. So we're 1.5 minutes in, I'm almost there. Creative Mornings was founded by Tina Roth Eisenberg in New York City. She calls it the one of her sort of like phrases that she uses, which I just remembered the other day. She calls it a friendship engine, a community engine, a generator of relationship. And I think fundamentally that's what it is. It's a place where people can come and show up together regularly, or as I say, with fidelity, and be inspired by members of our community, by each other, and by beautiful spaces in the city like DuPont Underground. And we'll get to that in a second. But every month we gather around a specific theme. This month's theme is vision, and we sort of hear from someone who's part of our community on that theme. All of the things that we do are done because of the generosity of a lot of people at different scales. We have title sponsors who sort of write us checks at the beginning of the year that let us pay for things when we have to pay for things like food, occasionally things like security, things like insurance. Things cost money sometimes, and the best way to get the things that cost money is to have money. Bittersweet Creative. I'm getting there. Bittersweet Creative is our title sponsor for the year. Bittersweet Creative is a full-service creative agency that also has a nonprofit storytelling arm. As you know, I have the pleasure of working for Bittersweet Creative. And we actually just got back from our contributors retreat. Our nonprofit storytelling arm is called Bittersweet Monthly. But we also have a publishing arm called Bittersweet Collective. We're doing a lot of things. But Monthly is basically this effort that organizes writers and filmmakers and photographers. And we send them all over the world free of charge to them to tell stories of human resilience wherever they may be. We've been everywhere. And we just got back from our retreat this past week that Stephen Miller didn't come to. Just calling you out from stage. Yeah, shout out, love you. Steven's a contributor and a great contributor, and we love him and we missed him. But at our retreat, all our contributors come together in the DC area, or come from all over the world to the DC area, and we sort of hang, have a good time. But we also plan our story slate for next year. So every time I've been on stage, I've asked you if you know of any organization or individual anywhere in the world who's doing sort of hope-building human resilience work to nominate them. We take all those nominations, we rank them based on a bunch of different criteria, and we select our slate for next year. So next year, we've selected our story slate, and it's really going to be a fun year. We're going to be in Detroit, we're going to be in Austin, we're going to be in Lebanon, we're going to be likely in Gaza and the West Bank, God willing. We're going to be in South Korea. We're going to be in Nigeria. It's going to be a fun slate. It's going to be a challenging slate. We love the work that we do, and we love Bittersweet for allowing us to use money to pay for things that cost money. Shout out Bittersweet. We've also got in-kind donors, Plants Alive and Charlestown AV. Anytime you see up on stage ASL language interpreters, that's being provided by Plants Alive. Plants Alive is a plant shop and nursery out in Silver Spring, Maryland. How many plant parents do we have in the room? Shout out. I support Planned Parenthood. That one worked better than I thought it would. Okay, cool, sweet. Applause too? You guys are too much. Plants Alive generously, again, cuts a check for us. As you know, a lot of our team are volunteers. One thing I never ask people to volunteer is their craft. I'll always ask you to volunteer time, but not your craft. And language interpretation is a craft, so we like to pay them. Plants Lab makes that possible. And then, as you know, we have very, very, very kind and wonderful and often handsome, strapping camera people in the back who are making the recording of these possible. Pre-pandemic, we used to record every event. When we came back, we didn't have the capacity to do that anymore because things cost money. And Charlestown AV reached out to us and said, hey, we'd love to do this for you. And they've been doing that since then. So shout out to Charlestown for making it possible. For us to take these talks home with us. Typically, the talks end up online about 2 weeks after the talk. So if you weren't here for Dr. Michelle May Curry's talk last month, it is now available on Creative Mornings website for anyone who wants to watch it. And I very much suggest that you do. It's wonderful. And of course, I feel like the range, I'm all over the place here. I didn't mean to. And of course, we get these really beautiful spaces and fun, interesting places to be for our events. And those are also often donated, always donated to us. And again, we can't not thank the people who invite us into their homes and into their spaces. So shout out to DuPont Underground. Anna, I don't know where you are. She might be up front somewhere. But yeah, thank you for opening your doors to us this morning. They had a program last night and they have a program tonight and still managed to let us get in here this morning, which is crazy. And it's a really, really cool spot. They have a lot of really interesting arts programming. So I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but it's DuPontUnderground.org if you would like to know more. And last but not least, at scale, on the ground, the people that you interact with, we've got our core team of volunteers who do everything, from storytelling, our photography, our socials, our emails, our illustrations, our graphics, our partnerships, our relationships. These are all managed by individuals who are volunteering their time. So if you see any of these faces at any point, please thank them. And then we've also got our day of volunteers who make the ship and the engine run on the day of. People serving you coffee, people checking you in, people telling you to come down a set of creepy stairs into an underground layer. These are all people, again, volunteering their time and getting up even earlier than you did to get here to prepare the space for you. So please thank them. If you have any interest in being a day of volunteer, please shoot an email. You can't see it because the podium's blocking it, but it's amaridonovan@gmail.com. And Amari will get you connected where you need to be connected. This community grows when we grow it. We have a full house today, which is wonderful. I'm preparing for a talk, and I was going through a bunch of photos from sort of our time since coming back from COVID, and it's crazy to see what we've done in 3 years. And that's just because you all keep showing up and bringing people, and I think that's beautiful, and I think that's wonderful, and that's how communities grow. That's how communities grow in depth and scale and size. As you've heard me say, I don't care how big we are. I just want to see familiar faces every single month, and that's been true. So thank you, and please keep doing that. If you want more Creative Mornings and you don't hate virtual things yet, good job, I guess. I don't know how you've managed not to, but field trips, Creative Morning field trips exist. They are ways for us to plug into the global community and be led through different creative practices, spaces, neighborhoods, quite frankly, by the people who are living and working in those neighborhoods all over the world that are part of the Creative Mornings community. If you're ever traveling anywhere and you're curious about what's going on in that city, just Google Creative Mornings, city you're going to, and find their programming, connect with someone. It's a very, very porous community. People want to connect with one another. I've met hosts from cities all over the country. I've met hosts from cities at this point all over the world as well. So yeah, always reach out, always do that. Big community, big numbers, lots of things. Last month, we were at the Rubel, and Michelle dropped some beautiful wisdom and knowledge on us and made a few of us cry. How many of y'all were there? It was a vibe, good time. It was our first time in that space. That was not me. It was our first time in that space. It will not be our last time. So again, thank you to the Rubel. Thank you to Michelle. And thank you to all those who came through. And this week, you are here to listen to a talk on vision. This is the last time that I'm going to get to introduce a speaker, which is crazy. If you were here last month, we announced that I would be stepping down as host, and the person who you're about to hear from is going to be taking the host position. More on that later, but I do just want to say Kayleigh has been someone who has become a new friend, and a new friend that became a fast friend, and a fast friend that became an instant supporter. I think it's something to be said when people are willing to show up for you. I say the word show up a lot. I say the word fidelity a lot. I think to me that's like fundamental to relationship. We all sort of skip to intimacy and everybody wants intimacy, and that's wonderful. Intimacy is great in friendship, but it starts by showing up regularly, which is the definition of fidelity. So this is somebody who I met who became a friend. You've all seen her in these spaces for the last number of years. I'm sure her face is familiar to you. But what you don't know is that she is a wonderful, just fierce supporter of the arts and creativity. She supports it in her, hey, people know. Some people know. She supports it in her life. She's got two wonderfully brilliant, creative daughters, who you just see sort of ooze that, like, I love to make cool, fun shit. I love magic because magic is real energy, and that's like what you want from a child. She supports it in her own personal practice. As a writer, as a practitioner of creativity, she supports it in her full-time day job that pays the bills, as a senior advisor to the arts at Aspen. And now she's going to be supporting it as the host of Creative Mornings starting in February of 2025. I guess technically starting November of 2024. Kayleigh is someone who I think is going to take this community to just, I don't know, the next stage. And as we've talked a lot through what that next stage looks like, I have full confidence and excitement that it's going to be a beautiful time. I think this community, you guys always, one way or another, tell us what you need, and we're just responding to that. I was talking to a new host in Michigan somewhere. I don't remember what chapter in Michigan. She was feeling a lot of trepidation about what to do and how to know the right decisions to make. And I was like, on a good day, we are the conductors of this thing. On a bad day, we are the tracks. But we are never driving it. We're never the train. You guys are the train. You all are the thing that tells us where to go. And all we got to do is listen. So I have no doubt that this person that you're about to hear from is ready to take that posture of listening and respond accordingly and lead this team. And without further ado, I would love Kayleigh Bryant-Greenwell to come to the stage. Did it. We use Mac. Okay.
Oh, good morning. My name is Kayleigh. I am very nervous to be doing this. If you weren't able to join us at the lovely Rubel Museum last month, then you missed the part where Obi introduced me as the upcoming new host for CMDC. He admitted that when he first asked me, I said no. But that did not deter him from his vision. This summer, we were looking ahead and planning the Q3 and Q4 talks, and he had the questionable idea to put me up here to talk about my vision for CMDC. And again, I said no. And here I am. Side note, after Obi made the announcement last month, and we were having our collective post-talk time together, a bunch of you kept coming up to me and congratulating me. And I was truly dumbfounded. I was saying out loud, "Oh, thank you so much." But in my head, I was like, am I being punked? Did they not hear the part about how this work is deeply, truly cannot be emphasized enough, unpaid? Did they not hear the part where I said no? And I had to sit with it for a while until I realized that if I'm being congratulated, it's because this community, our community, values the deeply unpaid volunteer chapter host so highly. So thank you. And that tells me that we have a shared vision about what Creative Mornings means to us, which makes the pressure feel particularly high to talk about vision. Because when we think of vision, we often go to visionaries, people that had a perfect genius idea and led their idea into being, while usually leading others into their more perfect beings along the way. We're sitting in a space that is a living vision. Give it up for DuPont Underground one more time. I'd also like to personally shout out Kelly, Anna, Eric, the whole team here. I don't think that we've been in this space since before the pandemic, so it's really great to be back. And you should all come back on Saturday for the magic show, and next Saturday for a live tattoo and symphony performance. Yes. Throughout my career, I have felt the frustrations of working for a vision-less leader. Being in the nonprofit art space, a lack of vision feels more like watching the clock wind down than it does creative connection. It feels meaningless. And as a Virgo rising Capricorn, meaninglessness is brain death to me. It's why I struggle with small talk. So if you want to chat me up after, and I'm super awkward, just ask me a soul-shattering personal question, and we will be great friends. Vision feels weighty to me, a bit too weighty. So in order to make any kind of sense out of this assignment so lovingly bestowed upon me, I had to break it down. I realized that when I was thinking about the meaning of vision, it was about seeing, processing, and dreaming. Not in a linear order, not every moment is seen, processed, and dreamed, but these were the elements coming up for me. And then I looked up the Merriam-Webster definition and found that I wasn't too far off, actually. The dictionary describes vision as 1, the faculty or state of being able to see. 2, the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. 3, an experience of seeing someone or something in a dream or trance or as a supernatural apparition. And 4, a person or sight of unusual beauty. And I think that my OOTD covers number 4. Thank you. So we're going to think about 1 through 3. Instead of thinking about perfect vision, the success of visionaries, I'm thinking about seeing, processing, and dreaming. And what better way to talk about imperfect vision than to share my double vision diagnosis? It's a pretty obvious joke, but to talk about vision when you have double vision just feels pointed. But I found this quote: "Single vision produces worse illusions than double vision or many-headed monsters." Donna Haraway, retired professor of the history of consciousness, which I did not know was a thing, at the University of California, Santa Cruz. I think the context of this quote is about collective thinking and visioning versus the singular genius leader model, which I think is very fitting for our CMDC community. But I also realized that duplicity or multiplicity shows up as a theme throughout my life. Sometimes consciously, but often non-consciously, I find myself holding space for multiple or duplicative or binary visions. And I'd like to fully let go of the idolization of the singular vision someday. So double vision shows up right at the beginning for me. Raised by a white Christian preacher's daughter, formerly Republican mom, who worked in military intelligence my whole life, and a Black agnostic, formerly libertarian dad, who worked in investigative news media my whole life, I identify as a Black biracial, atheist, liberal Virgo misfit who doesn't know what she wants to be when she grows up. When I tell people about my upbringing, and that my parents are still happily married, by the way, I often get the question, well, how does that work? To which I reply, it really just does. Next month, we'll be gathering in the aftermath of the election so we can hold our political miseries until then. I truly mean it, though, when I say I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I've been blessed with many mentors who regularly ask me this question, to which the only real answer I have is to be happy and well-balanced, which I'll get into. But the future me is a vision that remains murky to me, and I struggle to articulate. I'm more of a collector of questions than answers these days. One such question is this. I mentioned that I'm a Virgo rising Capricorn. I also very amateurly read tarot. I was given this book by a dear friend. It's Chani Nicholas's You Were Born for This, where you go to her website, which is free, you do your star chart, and then you read the parts of the book that map to your chart. And she's got advice and soul-wrenching questions like this. So she asks Virgos, perfectionist overachievers that we are, what are you afraid of seeing beyond yourself? I read this book like 4 years ago, and I cannot escape this question. So now we can all suffer together. I hope that you take this question with you and let it haunt you for a few years. Though I cannot even begin to answer this, I've started to unpack it a bit. And I've come up with just needing to sit with my arguably unhealthy drive toward perfectionism and overachieving. And for the purpose of this talk, I'm specifically reflecting on 6 times that my vision was turned on its head, or rather 6 times I didn't see, process, or dream the alternative vision that I needed. So, the number 6 vision that I didn't see, that I would willfully contradict or frustrate others' expectations of me. Okay, if you're able, stand up if you identify with people-pleasing. Be honest. Okay, stay standing. If you're still seated, stand up if perfectionism resonates with you in any way. And stay standing. If you're still seated, stand up if you've ever been accused of or praised for overachieving. Okay. All right, you can have a seat. Friends, I gotta say, it started young for me. Those elementary school report cards with a pleasure to teach were a dopamine hit I didn't know that I was addicted to. But I was good at school, and I liked being good at school. I was on the student council in high school and vice president of the art club and the Black Students League. I was type A from the jump. Here I am in one of my honors classes in high school. And no, I don't know what vision I was going for in lime freaking green at prom, but there you go. The overachiever in me also decided to graduate undergrad in 3 years instead of 4, and then grad school in exactly 4 semesters. Yes. But the whole other people's expectations thing, it's still something I'm working on. I'll probably always be working on. But when I was younger, it felt like a constant tension. I just felt like I always had to give 110%. The drive to achieve and be perfect was so much stronger than the drive to just be. I think the first time that I truly negated an external expectation was when I finally embraced that I'm atheist. My childhood was spent in church and Sunday school on Sundays, choir practice on Tuesday nights, and vacation Bible school in the summer. Baptism, communion, I even got married by my mom's pastor, even though my faith was nearly non-existent by then. I did, for a hot second, have a true crisis of faith, or perhaps I was just not seeing myself as fully and clearly as I needed to. And I thought that maybe what I needed was to go harder into religion. So after undergrad, for the brief 4 months that I lived at home, I taught Sunday school and even debated if I should go into youth ministry for grad school. But that too did pass. My mom, the preacher's kid, definitely didn't have "my kid will be atheist" on her vision board for me. But it's my truth, and I'm good with it. My family is good with it. My kids have some kind of faith going on, I think because they go to Catholic school. But if you ask them outright, they'll say, "I believe in Jesus and God. Mommy and Daddy do not." And I'm really good with that. While I don't ever feel pressure to defend my atheism, I do, however, get a lot of pushback against my decision to leave museums. I'll talk about this more, but I worked in museums for nearly 14 years. I did grad school in museum studies, and for a long time, I couldn't picture a career outside of museums. When my museum mentors, who are still a big part of my life, ask what I want to be when I grow up, and I respond that I seriously don't know, they share their vision of me as a museum director someday. This is an expectation I am only currently able to deflect. Maybe someday, but not today. Vision number 5 that I didn't see coming, that I would find my way as an extrovert. I say this with a question because while I'm certainly more extroverted than I have been most of my adult life, I'm still a Myers-Briggs INTJ or an architect. I like to build things with ideas. But while I was really outgoing and in all the clubs in high school, I was much more socially reserved in college and most of my adult life. And here's where seeing beyond yourself really gets you. I did not envision, at barely 18 years old, meeting my life partner on move-in day at college. But here we are, 18 years, 1 marriage, and 2 kids later. He's always been more extroverted and me introverted, but in the last few years, we've seen that in kind of reverse. I so did not see myself making like a dozen new friends this year or any year this late into my 30s, especially as introverted as I have been. My ride or die HM, who is our CMDC social media maven, can attest that I used to live by the no new friends rule. And yet here I am, putting myself out there, still struggling with small talk, but I'm happy to be open to new people. The number 4 vision that I didn't see coming, that I would embrace the unbusy life. To illustrate what I mean by this one, I made a chart. I'm still type A at heart. This is a snapshot of what my life used to look like. The 14 years I worked in museums, my career was not just the 9 to 5. It was overloaded with extracurriculars. Independent curating, writing, speaking appearances, consulting, adjuncting, and collective movements. In 2014, I freelanced proposals for curating 10 shows while working full-time. From 2015 to 2018, and then with a virtual revival in the pandemic, 2020 to 2021, I was a leading organizer of Museum as Site for Social Action. This unpaid, volunteer-based collective movement held a shared vision about repairing the social injustices of museums, and I was thrilled to be a part of it, again, while working full-time and starting my family. The 14 years I worked in museums, this was the work I was doing parallel to my full-time job, parallel to writing, curating, conferencing, consulting, teaching, and mothering. I also have the birth listed in the years that they occurred because mothering is real. And a lot of this aggressive career building was in response to the fact that being a young Black woman in museums meant that I wasn't taken seriously. I found that the more I did outside of my 9 to 5, the more credible it was for me to exist in these spaces. There was no warm and welcoming belonging committee that embraced me existing in museums. In fact, on so many occasions, it was painfully obvious that I wasn't meant to belong here. And I am a petty menace, okay? So tell me to my face that I don't belong, and I will defy the laws of science if I have to, just to prove you wrong. And I did. But I was also defying the laws of my own basic human needs for rest and peace. The pandemic has changed the way a lot of us see our work and lives. For me, the pandemic was an opportunity to embrace slowness, to see myself beyond the constant busyness, and to dream of other ways of being beyond career orientation. The number 3 vision that I didn't see for myself, that I would have a contentious relationship with my creative process. When I was younger, I never saw myself struggling to create. I was always an artist, drawing and painting primarily, and it always came easy. I was committed to my art so much that I spent every year, except senior year in high school, taking homeroom lunch so that I could take an extra art elective each semester. I was the vice president of the Art Honor Society. I got a full ride to the University of Maryland College Park for studio art, go Terps. But I always knew I didn't want to be a professional artist. I just didn't think I'd stop being an artist. But I haven't sat at an easel with a brush in hand in years, truly over a decade. For a long time, 14 years to be exact, I poured my creativity into my work in museums, which at the time allowed me to support the creativity of others as a curator and event producer. The vision I told myself was that I was fulfilled by creating museum experiences and supporting others. And I was fulfilled to a degree, to be sure. Was it 14 years of fulfillment? Certainly not consistently. Around 10-ish years ago, I had the opportunity to do some local arts criticism. You all remember Brightest Young Things? So I did that for a while. Eventually, local arts criticism grew into writing professional op-eds about museum work, which eventually grew into authoring book chapters. At some point in the journey, I had a vision. Oh, I'm a writer, ? Now, I don't think that I replaced painting with curating and then curating with writing. I don't think the creative process works so linear. But I was, and still am, feeling more creatively fulfilled with the god-awful challenge that is writing. It's a journey always, and a battle some days, or in my case, months and years. In the pandemic, my now late mentor, Cinnamon Catlin Legetko, had two visions that involved me. The first was actually a vision she started seeding in 2019. She was a true visionary, a maverick ahead of her time. You all would have loved her. At the major annual museum conference that year, she gathered a group of 50 women and said, look, the dudes have their little cabal of recruitment for the top jobs within their tight little circle, the same 12 dude bros. We need to band together to show our strengths for these roles. And we held a collective battle cry and then kind of went on our own separate ways. Then, in March 2020, she emailed a dozen of us from that group and said, remember that group that we seated at the 2019 conference? What if we got together on Zoom to support each other now? Not knowing that the original 2 weeks long work from home order was about to become a years-long process for all of us, that life as we knew it was about to be completely turned on its head, we said yes. We have been meeting on Zoom every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern since March 13, 2020. This group has gotten me through it, and I mean through it. And it's all thanks to Cinnamon's vision. We are still a distance group. We live in Chicago, Boston, Atlanta, Charleston, but we're still together. We also have a hilarious and very active text thread going that is just 4 years of rage and sorrow and jokes and silliness. So I said that Cinnamon had two visions that involved me. The second was that I would write a book. Yes, a whole book full of words. That's the one. In 2021, she joined the editorial team for a newly formed university press imprint about cultural heritage work that would publish single-authored books about new approaches to museum practice. At the time, I had just left my last museum role and was then working in academia in anti-racist scholarship. So naturally, the book is the Anti-Racist Museum. While I felt woefully underqualified to do this, it was Cinnamon, so I said yes. When I submitted the first draft, my first chapter, to her on a Wednesday in January 2022, I would find out that Friday on our weekly Muses call that she was diagnosed with aggressive cancer. Throughout the year, we had a lot of ups and downs as a group, trying to support each other while distanced. She passed away in January 2023. I didn't touch the book idea since that first chapter 2 years ago. But then, unexpectedly, earlier this year, I got a random email from a stranger. Turns out her co-editors want to continue with the imprint, with the project, and asked if I would finish the book. I can say this with my full heart. I did not see this one coming. And I'm finding the creative writing process near impossible most days. I don't have any clever or hopeful idioms about it. It's just unfinished. It's going to be unfinished for a while, and writing is hard. vision number 2 that I didn't see, that I wouldn't measure my happiness on how well I was achieving at work. Okay, so I've painted this picture of a not so distant past me that was this hungry overachiever, booked and busy, workaholic DC stereotype. My vision then was to climb the museum leadership ladder as fast as possible so that when I got to the summit, I could be happy. It sounds comical to me now, but my vision then saw happiness tied to achievement. The year that I did 10 proposals, I was some version of happy, to be sure. I was certainly proud that I had done it, but I was exhausted. When was the last time you met an exhausted, happy person? I was buckled in for a journey to burnout. I knew for years that I was unhappy doing what I was doing, even after I scaled back from curating multiple shows, while speaking at conferences, while leading collectives, while consulting with other museums, while writing, while adjuncting, while working full-time, while raising a family. But it wasn't until I, like many of us, in the pandemic, hit that particular wall of burnout that I started making some changes. I started reading for fun more. I'm reading thrillers and fantasy and mysteries, and yes, a lot of smut too, no shame. I really like an unlikable female lead, and I don't know what that says about myself. I started a few years ago with the 52 books a year challenge, but that quickly turned into 104 books a year, and I'm currently on my 118th book this year. It's silly, but it took burning out to learn that I love reading and that reading makes me happy. I started cosplaying at conventions and contests, and I've won a few. These events are entirely about people watching and meeting new people, so I'm exercising all my new extrovert skills. And cosplay is weird, and I feel like I have found my people. But the one thing that I'm most happy about is that I'm not happiest about work. Now, I don't share this next particular part of my shared journey lightly or because there's a lesson to be learned. It's just what happened. On Christmas Day, 2022, my oldest had a seizure, her first and only. In the context of vision, I didn't know what I was seeing because it did not look like what it looks like on TV. We rushed to the hospital, and she and I spent Christmas through New Year's together at Children's National. And shout out to the team at Children's. Those are some real heroes. So we're discharged home, no diagnosis. She got sick again a few months later. Another week at Children's, but this time a diagnosis and a recommendation for surgery. And a confirmed second opinion at Hopkins, and a few months later, that surgery. She's doing great now. It's been more than a year since surgery. I should probably lead with that part, sorry. She is healthy and happy. And when I tell people this story, I get a lot of reflections about how, well, it made you blah, blah, and it taught you blah, blah. And I say, nope. I am not of the mindset that everything happens for a reason. I'm certainly not of the mindset that children's pain and suffering happens so there can be a cute moral to share. There's a blue chip artist that I really don't actually like his paintings very much, Harold Ankart, but he says, people have this very human desire to bring meaning to every single situation, which is maybe symptomatic of a general insecurity or finding this larger sense of purpose. But perhaps the more profound reality is to understand that maybe life has no meaning except to love and live and die and make art. I can say that this trauma, like all trauma, changed me, changed my kid, my family. It changed how I see my own health. And the truth is that there was no way I was going to experience all that with my family and go back to seeing, processing, and dreaming my happiness, my worth, my own value by a job. It helps that I've transitioned out of museums, and I do feel a lot more fulfilled by my work. Not to create another binary, but the difference is palpable. I couldn't see it at the time, but I was once toiling away for months, years at a time, writing a perfect museum label that 30,000 people would see, but no one would read. Researchers have found that the average person looks at a work of art in a museum for about 15, 30 seconds. Now my work looks like sending Obi to executive leadership seminar for a week of the Aspen method, text-based dialogue, in a room full of strangers, where he returned saying that the experience was life-changing, that he has a new mentor, and that those deep conversations are helping him find clarity. So it helps that I'm finding more fulfillment in the newly found human scale of my work, but it's not the key or the vision to my happiness. Okay, last one. Vision that I didn't see for myself, that I would say no. Okay, so this one is definitely an ongoing aspirational vision for my future. You all know that I've told Obi no on multiple occasions, and we can all laugh about that. But when I look at the whole picture of all of these visions that creeped up on me and stuck around to mess up the warped visions that I was pursuing, a lot of the lessons I needed are about saying no and meaning it. And for the record, I do not count stepping up for CMDC host or this community in this. But coming out of my workaholic frenzy I realized that saying no is about setting boundaries. I never envisioned myself as a no-embracing person, but I'm realizing that to truly give your whole self in the yeses that matter, you gotta say no to the things that don't. So I know that I couldn't get up here and talk about vision for 30 minutes and not share some thoughts about CMDC for the coming year. I joined CMDC and attended my first meeting in 2013. Joel was the host then. And shortly after, I started volunteering as a venue host across the different museums that I worked at. Joel's vision, I think that I can say, was about growth and breadth. We were a newly formed chapter, and growing our membership and our community was key. Raquel got us through the pandemic, and to put it in words, she held and nurtured us through it. We survived because of her vision. Obi has said time and again, his vision for our community is depth. Regardless of if we grow, shrink, or stay the same in numbers, let's go deeper in relation with each other. My vision is to help this community thrive. DC is creative, and creative work is not easy. How can CMDC serve as a place that helps our creative community thrive? When we go to that welcome slide that says, bring a friend, I'd say, bring a friend who needs this, who we in turn as a community need. So I look forward to thriving, seeing, processing, and dreaming together. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Isn't she great? We've got time for some questions. I got about, let's call it like 2 questions from the audience if anybody has them. No pressure if not. Oh, okay, cool. That's fine. You have to speak loudly if you have a question. Okay, we got 2. Perfect. Start here, Holly, and then come back. Just shout it out. I got 2 mic.
Ooh, mastery. For the sake of the video, the question is, how am I learning to say no? That's a very good question. For me, right now, I'm considering where the question, from whom the question is originating. I still am gonna struggle to say no to the deepest relationships that I have. I think that's always gonna be a struggle for me. I wanna be there, I want to support, I wanna show up for the people in my life. So on a very surface level, I think about the depth of that relationship that I have with that person and the potential impacts of saying no in that relationship. I am not a master of no yet. Someday. I'm so nervous that when I was sitting here during the intro, my Fitbit said, "Oh, you're doing great on the you're making your heartbeat goal for the day." That's how nervous. Sitting down. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Do you mean at the Aspen Institute in general or at the arts program? So the arts program, unfortunately, no, we are not hiring. I am still largely a team of 1 and will be for the foreseeable future. At the Aspen Institute, yes, we are almost always hiring. There's a lot of growth happening. So the Aspen, no, not the, we're dropping the. I'm getting the branding correctly. AspenInstitute.org. There's careers on there somewhere. Find that link, yeah.
There's no cringe here. Sometimes we got to climb cringe mountain to find ourselves. So I'm going to switch microphones. Kayleigh, thank you so much. That was perfect. That was perfect. Sorry. She said she was trying not to be a perfectionist. That was imperfect. There's room for improvement. You may sit down now if you'd like. I want to make it very clear. I do know that no means no. I want that. I feel like that needs to be said on the record, okay? I do take no for an answer 100% of the time, actually. My response to Kayleigh was, think about it. Because it was a very quick no, and I sensed that it was coming from a place of unsureness, and I wanted to know that she was sure in her no. Again, let the streets know that Obi does know that no means no. Got me out here to catch a stray. As usual, love it here. Always loved it here. Will always love it here. Kayleigh, thank you for sharing your vision with us. And again, I think we'll always be a community of vulnerability. I can't remember or think of the last time where someone sat up here and just rattled off their resume for an hour, which sometimes happens at things like this. So I think. Yeah. No. Okay. Fun times. Fun times. This has been fun, y'all. Like I said, this is going to be my last time on stage hosting. But it's not going to be the last time you see me on stage. Our event next month the theme is thread. And we are going to be meeting about a week and a half after the election. And we are technically breaking a rule, an HQ rule, because hosts are not supposed to speak on Creative Mornings days. But Kayleigh and I sat and talked, and I just didn't, neither of us wanted to set a speaker up for whatever the hell it was that we were going to be dealing with a week and a half after the election. And when pushed by HQ to rethink that, I very simply said, this election has high stakes for the entire country. The stakes are different for us. We feel it differently, not worse, not more, not better, just different. And because it's different, we're going to go ahead and take our community in a different direction. So next month, I will be speaking. And it's not, I don't know what I'll be speaking to, quite frankly. There's a chance I prepare nothing because it could all fall apart a week and a half before. But I think what I ultimately wanted to do was just to create an opportunity for us to hold space for whatever it is that we're walking into collectively that week, and then sort of hold space for connecting a thread for the season, and sort of preparing ourselves for moving into it. As you know, if you've been here for a while, we do not meet in December or January because rest is important. So we take the winter season and we respond to, we do what nature tells us to do, and we go inside and we sleep as a team. So November 22nd, same time, 8:30 a.m., we will be at the Smithsonian American Art Museum at the Luz Foundation Center, which we've been at before pre-pandemic, and now we're finally back. It's going to be very exciting. That's the announcement for next month. As we always do at this time, you know what's up. We're going to do it downstairs today. We've never done this downstairs. End of every event, we like to take a moment of collective silence. I'll rattle off my bit one more time. I think collective silence is very powerful. I think in a culture that is very loud, where everyone has a platform, a thing to say and a platform to say it on, I think that one of the most, I guess, maybe profound means of protest and celebration that we can do is to be silent together and to bring whatever that silence brings into a room and hold it as one. So that's what we do sort of at every event, just to end it. We are a very fast-paced moving culture in the city, and sometimes we just don't take a minute to be quiet. So for the next 2 minutes, we are just going to take in that collective silence. Something cool, we're underground. We are sort of closer to the vibrations of the earth, and we have a vibration above us. Feel that. Feel the vibrations next to you. Bring whatever you're bringing, if it's joy, if it's grief, if it's sadness, if it's numbness. We will hold it together for 2 minutes, and then I will break us, and we will go into the world. Starting now. Get everybody take a deep breath in. Let it out. One more deep breath in. And out. And one more big deep breath in. And out. As always, it's an honor to live with you, to breathe with you all. We will see you next month in whatever we get next month. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take care of the stranger and the neighbor and the orphan and the widow. Okay? Love y'all. Bye.